Hello, everybody. My name is Aaron Knoll, and welcome back once again to the Movie Battleground. I hope you guys enjoyed the matchups that we had last week because we are here to start off another week of fun matchups. And this is the first of a little bit of a limited run that we're doing called Rookie Wednesdays. This is where we'll be putting up a couple of weeks over the next month or so. We'll be putting up an extra match every week in order to kind of work in some new rookies, as you guys very blatantly saw over the course of the tournament. Unfortunately, whether it was a mix of personal reasons or just people kind of not feeling it after a game or two or whatever happened, we've lost a couple of people along the way. And so we decided to fill in those spots on the roster. And while we're kind of putting in extra matches and winding this up alongside our tournament, we wanted to give an opportunity to these people who were new to the roster to get that first game in earlier than they may have had we not done this, to kind of get a feel for the game. And today we have an interesting matchup between two gentlemen. One of them is actually not a rookie. We have Jacob Barber playing, who is 0-1. Unfortunately, for his own reasons, he was unable to kind of commit to the potential tournament should he have won and moved on against Hunter. So he stepped away and was replaced. But that did not mean he was done with the league. And in fact, he did compete one more time last year in our Christmas exhibition match, which he did win. So he'll be looking coming in here to get his first official win. And he will be playing against a debuting competitor in Will Cohen, who did technically make his debut in 2021 as well in our 2021 in film match against Noah McCausland and JD Domash. And against the odds of playing not one but two vets, Will did come out with the victory in that match. And while it does not do shit for his record, it's a little bit of a confidence booster coming into this to have that win. And so it's a good matchup between these two, both fresh off a win that doesn't count to try and get the win that does. So we'll go ahead and get into this. Introducing first, making his competitive debut in Movie Battleground. He has previously debuted in unofficially and won the 2021 in film exhibition match, and he wants to be known as the Virtuoso Will Cohen. So bring him in. Will, how's it going, sir?
It's going well. It's going to be very interesting to only debate one person today instead of two. And yeah, I just want to have some fun today. So these are just amazing questions. I think it's going to be a very competitive match.
Absolutely. And obviously with, talking about only about 2021 in films, it's a very limited scope of what it is that you're actually talking about. What was your kind of the most interesting thing for you in terms of like preparing for this, of having that wider breadth of questions now?
Well, with 2021, it was kind of a wide scope in terms of like how many movies actually came out. But in this one, to me, it feels like having more specific things to go on. That actually helped me a little bit more to focus like on what to actually talk about. So that actually I feel is going to help me a little bit greater in the match to actually have more specific things to talk about, so I can just kind of build off of that instead of, oh, this is a good movie, this is a movie that sucked.
That's fair. And we do still have those questions, because what would
Yeah,
movie
that's
debate
true.
be if we're talking about what's good and what sucks? But
That's true.
it's not that specific. So, Will, thank you for being here, sir. Happy to have you. I am going to send you to the back and bring in your opponent, entering with a competitive record of no defeats, one win, having won the Christmas exhibition match over the winter break. He is Jacob Barber coming into the stream. Jacob, welcome back officially to the Movie Battleground after a bit of a hiatus. This is a rhetorical question because you're just getting over feeling something, but how are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay. I'm glad you misspoke and said I have no defeats and one win. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome.
Because that's a confidence boost. I know you love to bring up the fact that I'm 0-1. You did it a few times in the Christmas exhibition, but no, I'm feeling okay. It's definitely the best I felt all week. Ready to debate some movies. Will obviously is going to be tough because he did win in his unofficial debut. In his exhibition match. So I'm excited to go against him and see if I can pull it out. I came up this short against Austin. I'm hoping not to do that today.
Absolutely. And I mean, speaking of your former competitor, your only match is against Austin, who I think arguably in those first 16 matches was one of the more interesting rookies we saw debut. The luck hasn't gone his way since, with 2 losses subsequently to Chadwick and to Henry. Are you hoping your luck can also kind of go the opposite direction following a debut loss?
Oh, definitely. I'm excited to talk about these questions. I think even though I've lost my notes as we talked about behind the scenes, I still feel fairly confident in the arguments that I have ready up here. So hopefully that doesn't fail me. I'm just here to have a good time, and if I pull out the win, uh, yay! And if I don't, at least we're having a good time.
Absolutely. At least we are trying to have a good time. Well, sir, best of luck to you. I'm going to go ahead and bring back in your opponent, and let's go over Movie Battleground. Movie Battleground is a best of 5 rounds. It is the first to 3 points wins. Each round of debate will be worth 1 point. If a competitor happens to get 3 points in a row, that will be a victory by knockout. And on the other side, if we have a 2-2 tie at the end of our first 4 rounds, that will activate the blind round. But we'll go over that one a little more in depth should we need to. In terms of how the first 4 questions work, the competitors have been given the questions ahead of time. They've had as much time as we could give them and as much as they chose to use of it to prep for it. Going into the rounds, there will be a 60-second opening. That will be followed by 2 minutes with a chance to expand and kind of build on their argument. That will be followed by a 4-minute open debate, which will give the competitors a chance to go back and forth, get as many points in as possible, and kind of jab at each other respectfully to a degree, of course, followed by a 60-second closing argument to wrap up and surmise everything. Following that, behind the scenes, I do have 3 great judges in the form of Stacy, Chris, and JD. They will come on screen and make their decision as to who won based on what was said in the arguments. Guys, with that said, do you have any questions for me, or are we ready to go?
No questions.
Good match, Jacob. Let's get it started.
If
Absolutely,
I lose,
guys.
I blame it on being sick.
We're going to go ahead and go into question number 1, which is an interesting question. It's one that we like to call a replay question. A replay question here at Movie Battleground is this question has previously been used in a match, but for whatever reason, be it the answers that were given or the context in which it was used, I thought that this was a good question to kind of bring back and give another shot to. And so the replay question is, what is the worst movie of the Halloween series? Now, this question was previously used as a blind round question in the Jordan Owens, and Jeremy Adams match, in which the answers Halloween 2018 and Halloween 1978 were given. Now, for those of you confused like Will below me, remember the blind round, they don't get to see the question before they pick their answers. They just have to, they had to pick based off of name me a movie in the Halloween series, and thus they had to argue them for this question. On the upper side, they were ineligible choices for this question. Not that either of you would have considered them, clearly. So with that said, guys, you got to pick the actual what you thought were the worst. And we're going to get into it. Jacob, because you do have a competitive record, you were deemed the favorite, and you chose to go first on questions 2 and 4, which means, Will, you will be going first on question number 3. So as I bring in the timer and take a pause so that it doesn't break the video.
Favorite.
It's all arbitrary, truthfully. All right, there we go. It's looking good. I'm going to disappear and make it look better. And Will, the timer will start when you begin speaking.
So the Halloween franchise has been one that has been very interesting because it's just been a series of peaks and valleys for a very long time. For every good film that we have a very large valley of films that are kind of mediocre and middling. So the film that I chose came directly after one of its peak films. And it came at such a weird point in the franchise that I really feel like this is the reason for the eventual shakeup. I chose Halloween Resurrection. I will go into more detail later on how, the exact reasons why this film sucked, but I will preface this. When you are the direct predecessor after a film like Halloween H2O, all you have is to go up And this did not go up. I succeed the rest of my time.
Absolutely. You can give up that 1 second all you like. Jacob, it is over to you, sir. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Remakes should succeed in doing one thing: adding necessary information to the story. Rob Zombie's Halloween does not do that. Rob Zombie's Halloween is an unnecessary remake that is an absolute slap in the face to the original 1970s Halloween. This movie gives us an unnecessary backstory to Michael Myers that nobody needed. One of the things that drew us to Michael Myers was the fact that we don't know what was driving him, and that was the scariest thing of all. Not to mention, there's just so much about this movie that is just off-putting. Um, I'll get more into it in the 2 minutes, but it's just an unnecessary remake, spawning an unnecessary sequel, and is definitely the worst of the series.
Absolutely. I would like to point out that only a franchise like Halloween could have 3 movies with the exact same title. I'm just waiting for the 4th remake where they try and split it up, make it 2 words, Halloween, or something stupid like that. And let's be real, they would do it if you have the right dumb producer. Will, back to you. You have 2 minutes on the clock for Resurrection.
So when I was talking earlier about the peaks and valleys, I feel that while Rob Zombie's Halloween is definitely not a good movie at all, you could kind of feel like the producers were backed into a corner after Halloween Resurrection, because after such a stellar success with Halloween H2O, they chose a film that did everything wrong. It chased the wrong trends in web series and everything like that. They brought in stars that had no reason being in there, including Buster Rhymes, and it made the just absolutely movie-breaking moment of a side character taking out Michael Myers. And this is basically an hour and a half after they killed Laurie Strode in the first 10 minutes of the film. Why? Why do that? Why just break this? I'm not saying Rob Zombie's a good filmmaker, but they chase another trend right there too, because Rob Zombie was at the height of popularity and people were saying that he's a good filmmaker. So of course they're going to bring him in to try and save their absolute train wreck of a franchise after they let these people just completely bury the franchise after one of the highest peaks of the Halloween franchise. This is just a ridiculous movie that they just experimented with and ultimately failed in what they were trying to do. And it is the true reason why I fully believe this absolutely is the worst film in the franchise. And I will succeed my final 10 seconds.
All right, absolutely. As it counts down, Jacob, when the clock turns, you can be in speaking. If you would like me to give it a pause, I can, but up to you.
Rob Zombie's Halloween is definitely the worst of the franchise because, like I said before, it gave us an unnecessary backstory to Michael Myers. We didn't need to know about his childhood. The opening sequence in the 1970s Halloween was perfect, in seeing him kill his sister and then just seeing him with the knife. And that's all we needed to know about Michael Myers. We didn't need to know that he was bullied in school. We didn't need to know that his stepdad or whoever it was a vulgar piece of crap. We didn't need to know that his mom, which, played by Sherry Moon Zombie, because Rob Zombie's got to get her into every single one of his movies unnecessarily, was a stripper. We didn't need to know any of this. This was all unnecessary to the backstory of Michael Myers. If and then once we get to the Laurie Strode part, it rushes. It's not even. It's basically 45 minutes of a condensed version of 1970s Halloween, and it's not good at all. The acting in this movie is just terrible. Just a guy screaming, "I will sculpt!" Like that has no place in movies. Rob Zombie was coming off a high of Devil's Rejects. I will say that is a great movie, and this just expectations for this one were I think semi high and like didn't meet them. They were. See, you can't even see my hand because it's off the screen. That's how low the expectations were when you finally saw this movie. Halloween Resurrection, they knew what they were doing when they cast Busta Rhymes and Tyra Banks. They knew they were going for cheesy. They knew they were going for early 2000s, and they were trying to, hit on that, which I think they did really well. I mean, this is one of those. It's so good. It's bad. It's so bad. It's good, and you can have a fun time watching this. Nobody has a fun time watching Rob Zombie's Halloween. Nobody.
All right, and that will be time. We're going to go into the 4-minute open debate. The timer will restart when the first person speaks.
Before starting the timer, can I just say something to Jake really quick?
Why not?
Okay. So if you, because I'm really bad at this, if you want to speak, can you just, raise your hand and I'll try and finish up my point?
Oh, I'll interrupt you. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. I just want,
yeah,
you're
good. You're good.
I just want to make sure. Okay. So, all right. So going off of your, your original statement there. Yeah, of course they knew what they were doing casting Tyra Banks. Of course they knew what they were doing with casting Busta Rhymes. Yes, they were going for that absolute cheese factor in early 2000, with early 2000s horror. But this is kind of this is kind of what I was saying earlier, is that they were just absolutely chasing trends. They were kind of riding that post-Scream wave where they were trying to make things cheesy, but then they were also adding these ridiculous little trends of web stuff and crappy little camera stuff. But
which I think definitely works for the time this movie was made. I think it works for the early 2000s. You pick people that were popular at the time, which Busta Rhymes was. He's one of the top rappers of the early 2000s. I mean, he's still popular today. Let's be honest. Anyway,
well, of course. But the problem is that there's a specific formula that they go with. There's a canon, and even in those crappier films, there's still that formula that they go with, and that's if Laurie's not going to be the one taking out Michael, it's the protagonist of the film. But the protagonist of the film is still watching everything play out in on the screen, and Busta Rhymes, a side character, is the one who takes out Michael Myers. That just breaks the canon completely. This is the first time in the franchise where we had the canon, the formula of the canon, completely broken.
And I think that's good, because I think movies need to take risks like that. You need to take risks like killing Laurie Strode in the beginning of the film, which nobody probably saw coming. You need to take risks like Busta Rhymes doing kung fu with Michael Myers, which is a fun scene to watch. You need to take risks like Busta Rhymes taking out Michael Myers, because it's not expected. And if you just go by a formula, people aren't as into that as they are when you take risks. That's going to be noted. There were no risks taken in Rob Zombie's Halloween other than vulgarity and unnecessary. Like, I'm going to keep going back to it because it's unnecessary. We don't need to know Michael Myers' backstory. Part of what makes him this scary horror icon is the fact that we don't know what's driving him, and that's taken away in Rob Zombie's Halloween and makes him a more human character when he doesn't need to be a more human character.
And as much as I agree with that, the problem with the risk that they took is that it just didn't pay off. And that's the biggest thing, is that fans of the franchise or people coming in brand new after Halloween H2O saw how lousy that film was. The film wound up tanking, and then the producers of the film did not try to make a direct sequel to that. Instead, what they obviously did is later on attempt to reboot the franchise with Rob Zombie. And obviously, as much as I don't appreciate the 2007 Halloween, at least there was enough calling, there's enough interest in it to give him a sequel, and boy did he butcher that too. I'm not saying that 2007 is a good film by any stretch, but when comparing the two of them, which these are back-to-back films in the Halloween timeline, Resurrection was so horrible that it's right here, and then the Halloween just elevated just slightly there. It's not much.
I disagree.
At least Halloween did something interesting. It wasn't good, but at least it was talkable.
I'm going to disagree there. I don't think there's anything interesting. I think the most interesting part of both of these movies is Busta Rhymes doing kung fu with Michael Myers. I mean, I would much rather watch a 90-minute Halloween Resurrection film than a 2-hour Rob Zombie Halloween film with more than an hour of unnecessary backstory.
And time. All right, guys, we're going to go into the 1-minute closing. The timer will start. Jacob, or no, Will, you were up first. That is correct.
I'm up first.
Go ahead. 1 minute.
Okay, I will admit, Busta Rhymes doing kung fu with Mike Myers. Sure, that's funny, but it's funny for all the wrong reasons. You're not going into a Halloween film to watch kung fu. You're going into a Halloween film to watch Michael Myers be Michael Myers, and to watch kids rise up and destroy Michael Myers at the end. That's not what happened in a Halloween Resurrection. Yeah, there's some risk that it took, but the risk just didn't pay off. And the filmmakers, obviously, the producers decided to take a risk on Rob Zombie, and at least it paid off in the fact that Rob Zombie was given a chance to do another sequel. I think the backstory stuff was interesting. I'm not saying that they made the right decision. I'm just saying it was interesting, but it was far more interesting than Kung Fu Busta Rhymes.
And time. All right, Jacob, you got the final say. 1 minute on the clock.
Nothing is more interesting than Busta Rhymes doing kung fu. I don't care if it was against Michael Myers. I'll watch him do kung fu against anyone, but that's besides the point. Rob Zombie's Halloween is too long. If we did need a backstory, maybe a 20-minute backstory, not an hour or whatever it was. That's way too long to dive into the backstory of a character who doesn't need a backstory. You want Michael Myers being Michael Myers? I think he was in Resurrection. He was a silent killer, and he was, taking out early 2000s people that we enjoy. I mean, this movie has Thomas Ian Nichols. I mean, one of the premier actors of the early 2000s. He was a beloved member of Hollywood. Let's be honest. Watching him die was amazing. Again, I'll repeat it because a 90-minute Halloween Resurrection is a much more enjoyable time than a vulgar, unnecessary Rob Zombie Halloween.
And time. All right, guys. Well, a very good first round from the both of you. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back, give you a chance to recoup as I bring in our 3 judges behind the scenes. You guys won't be forced to make a decision right away. I do have a couple of fun fact checks that I looked up during the round. So here we go. So we'll start with, though he was said multiple times to be a side character, I have not seen the actual film, so I can't truly tell you, but Busta Rhymes is technically the highest credited actor of all the people in the film. That is ahead of the likes of Bianca Kajlich, I don't know how that's said, Thomas Ian Nicholas, Katie Sackhoff, and Sean Patrick Thomas, so he is technically credited as the lead. Sherry Moon Zombie's career is basically entirely dedicated to Rob Zombie. Every music video she's been in is one of his. Every film she's been in is one of his, except for a cameo where she dies at the start in a Tobe Hooper film. And even one of her 2 television appearances was a CSI Miami episode directed by Rob Zombie, which, did you know Rob Zombie directed a CSI Miami episode? That's funny. So there's that. when looking up Halloween 2007, I found multiple botched and canceled versions of what they attempted to do to follow Resurrection. Of all the things I was able to read in the time these guys were discussing, the funniest ones were a direct sequel where Busta Rhymes would have been killed at the start and Josh Hartnett would have been brought back to team up with a new actor playing Sheriff Lee Brackett in an attempt to find and kill Michael Myers in revenge for him killing Laurie. There was also a pitch about doing a Michael Myers film in the 80s that took place during the events of Halloween 3 Season of the Witch in an attempt to try and tie that film into the franchise properly. Somebody pitched the idea of doing a direct sequel to Halloween 6 focusing on the character Dr. Wynn. And my favorite was after Freddy vs. Jason was a success, someone went to John Carpenter and Clive Barker and said, let's do Pinhead and Michael Myers. That one actually got the furthest out of all the things I've just told you. It was canceled because an internet poll told them nobody cares. So with that said, let's go to the judges. Stacy, I do go to you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you? And you're muted.
Sorry. This one was really hard, but I think in the end, I just heard a little bit more from Will, and he did counter. I mean, Jacob also countered most of the hits against him, but I just think I heard a little more from Will, and I did like his point about, yeah, it's good to take risks and everything, but you go to a Halloween movie looking for something specific in that Halloween movie, and this messed with that whole formula.
All right, Diaz, I go down to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Stacey. Will got my vote. He kind of put a lot of example. Even though I felt they fixated too much Busta Rhymes a little bit, I felt Will gave more example. And in the end, that won it for me.
All right. Well, judges, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back, and we will see you at the end of the next round as I bring back in our competitors. And we will go ahead and move on to question number 2, which is we are entering the month of February, which means we are getting closer and closer to Oscar season. And when it comes to Oscar season, one of the things we talk about the most is performances. You know, oftentimes people will talk about films as a whole, but performances are a big thing in this. And so we have the question: what is the best performance by a leading actress in the year 2017? Now, I did give this preference last time we had a question like this, so I'll continue to give that preference. One or both of these performances may have been nominated for an Academy Award. One or both of these performances might have won an Academy Award. Let that be the thing that we're all aware of, but also have it on the side. Obviously, if a competitor brings it up as a point, it is brought up, but don't let that be the end-all, be-all of the decision, because let's be real, not everyone agrees with the Academy. There are certainly plenty of valid arguments for either side. But with that said, Jacob, you are up first on this one, so I will go ahead and bring back in the timer and allow you to begin when you speak.
2017 was a great year for film. There were so many good performances out there, but the performance that sticks out for me the most, and the one that I gravitate to more than any, is Elizabeth Olsen in Wind River. This was a performance that from a movie that was not on my radar at all, and once I saw it, I was completely blown away because Elizabeth Olsen was kind of in this Scarlet Witch, like that's who she is, and this movie makes you completely forget about that. She plays an FBI agent called to help with a case of a dead person in a native Wind River reservation. I forget the state. I think it's Wyoming. I'm sick. Don't hold that against me. And just the performance, I'll get into it, but it blew me away. It's a great performance, and I can't wait to talk about it.
All right, and that is time. And because it pertains to the film, I will give that fact check early. It is on the Wind River Indian Reservation in Wyoming. So you were correct about that. Don't worry. All right, well, back to you. 1 minute to open.
Going by what Jacob said, 2017 was probably one of the best years for cinema in recent memories. Like, you could have chosen any film and you would have found amazing performances and the like. So when scouring my brain, there's one that stuck out, for me that wasn't Elizabeth Olsen in Wind River, and it was Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water. This film, this performance just had everything you could ask for. It had just moments of just pure honesty. It had, just these stellar moments of vulnerability with, determination, and all from a character who says literally nothing through the entire film. Her character is absolutely mute, except for one stellar moment that we'll get into in the 2 minute. But Sally Hawkins definitely is the best of 2017.
All right. So, Jacob, back to you. Time starts when you begin speaking. Bless you?
No, it was the other one.
Okay.
Yeah. The problem I have with Sally Hawkins' performance in The Shape of Water is that I feel very little emotion from her. Whereas with Elizabeth Olsen, she delivers her lines so perfectly. She plays this FBI agent who, is coming into this case, and you can kind of tell she's a little new at her job, and she's not sure exactly what she's doing, and she portrays that really well. You can even the subtleties of her just every once in a while, because she came to negative 15-degree weather or whatever it was. I'm not sure. I don't even think they say, but it's really cold, and all she came in there with was like her FBI jacket. And so just those little subtleties of where she could just, you could tell she was getting sick, but she's still trying her best to do her job. And even though she's new and she's not, she doesn't know anyone here, she's still, you can see her passion just coming across the screen, wanting to do her job and wanting to, find justice. I don't get that from Sally Hawkins. In fact, every time she's on screen with someone else, she's outshined. She's outshined by Octavia Spencer. She's outshined by Richard Jenkins and Michael Shannon and the fish guy, whose name I cannot remember at the moment. I'm sure will correct me during his time. But I think she's outshined by everyone, and I feel no emotion from her. And it's hard for me to call a performance the best when you don't have any dialogue to deliver. It's a lot easier to portray emotions, I think, than it is to deliver the dialogue with the emotions. I think Elizabeth Olsen does that perfectly. She plays off Jeremy Renner really well. Her final scene when she's laying in the hospital bed, like that emotion that she's showing is just heartbreaking. It's a very underrated performance, one that I don't think has been seen enough. And it's a shame because it is so good. She is amazing.
And time. All
I'm
right,
pretty much
Will,
just
back to you.
fanboying at this point.
Wait, what did you say? I didn't quite get that.
I said I'm pretty much just fanboying at this point.
That's what we're here for, technically, at this round.
I am asking you to fanboy. Will, you have 2 minutes to fanboy, and then you can fanboy together for 4.
All right, here we go. So, Elizabeth Olsen, Wind River. I'm not going to say this is a bad performance, because it certainly is not. What I'm going to argue is that Elizabeth Olsen is really good in every movie that she's in. When she did that Hank Williams film with Tom, I'm forgetting his name right now because I didn't have to study him, but where she Hiddleston, thank you, where she played off of Tom Hiddleston. She was really good in that too. So what I got out of Wind River was another good Elizabeth Olsen film. Elizabeth Olsen performance. There's nothing to say, there's nothing negative about that. Sally Hawkins, I had no idea who she was until I saw Shape of Water. And I will argue against Jacob's point here. It is far harder to convey emotion when there's no words, when you are not allowed to say anything, when all you're doing is reacting. That is really hard to stay silent in that, to convey longing and loving and loneliness and, all of those emotions is, just without words. No, that's really hard. And it was just electrifying to watch her on screen do all of that, until the thing that made the film good to great is this loving musical number that she's given, where she's singing and dancing to this song, and she is just nailing the performance. And then as soon as the song is over, it's just back to reality. And it is just electrifying, and it's tear-inducing, it is awe-inspiring. And I just didn't get any of that from Elizabeth Olsen's performance. I did not get that level of just awe-inspiring from Elizabeth Olsen's performance. She is really good in Wind River, but Sally Hawkins just elevated everything in Shape of Water.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and go into the 4-minute open debate. The timer will restart when the first person speaks.
So I'm going to start off by saying, again, Elizabeth Olsen is really, really good in Wind River. And this was almost what I chose originally until I remembered Sally Hawkins' performance. It's really, it was going to be really hard to choose between these, but the reason why I chose Sally Hawkins is because she was asked so much in The Shape of Water, and she just nailed it on every aspect. She was just, she was amongst everything, including a giant fish monster played by Doug Jones. And she is
I knew you'd correct me.
Well, that's the actor. That's not the, yeah. But even when people like Michael Shannon or Richard Jenkins or Octavia Spencer are talking at her, she is still reacting and responding. And you can just see everything calculating in her head that she wants to say, but she can't because she's mute. And that is electrifying to watch.
I would argue that the most interesting character in this movie isn't even Sally Hawkins. I'm more interested about, the fish guy. I'm more interested in Richard Jenkins and what he's got going on. In Wind River, Elizabeth Olsen is the star. Like you want her to solve this case. You want her when she is in that group of guys and they're all surrounding her with guns, and she says, and she's just taking control, and she's doing it with people that, they know each other. She's the new person in town, and she does it with such authority, and she shows like she's not scared at all. She shows no fear. She's putting her gun away, and she says, hey, we and she's just taking charge. Like, that is a really good scene. There's emotion, like more than I see in Shape of Water. There's times when I feel like Sally Hawkins just has this blank expression on her face, like when Michael Shannon and Octavia Spencer are talking, and Octavia Spencer's like, "Oh, I have to talk for her," and on account of she can't talk, and Sally Hawkins is just sitting there, and I feel like she's not even caring. She's just.
So I want, so I will challenge you to watch that movie again and
I tried.
really focus on her, because when you're watching Sally Hawkins react, yes, Octavia Spencer's character does talk for her, but you could just tell there's so much going on in Sally Hawkins' character's head that it's hard to look away from her when she's just in the midst of all of this. When Michael Shannon's saying, looking at her square in the face and say, "Hey, I bet I can make you squawk again," like the expression that she has on her face, the sheer sheer emotions that are just subtly there. Subtlety is really, really hard to pull off in acting, and when you're not given any lines to show subtlety, that's even harder. And so a role like this,
I'd argue that
very challenging.
Sally Hawkins is a great actress. She's had great performances. I think when you've been doing it as long as she has, like, you know how to react. Elizabeth Olsen was fairly new. Come Wind River. I you know and I will argue that her emotion that she displays in her final scene when she's in that hospital bed, after recovering from her wounds, when you thought, maybe is she gonna die? Are they gonna kill this person off? And like, that emotion hit me. Like, I wanted to know more about this character. I wanted to follow up with her. I wanted to see where her career was going as an FBI agent. I want to know more about Jane Banner. I didn't want to know more about Sally Hawkins' character. I didn't care, because, like I said, every time she's on screen, she's just outshined by her counterparts.
And I can't agree with you on that one. She's maybe outheard because she's mute, but she's definitely not outshined because her emotion is coming through in spades.
And time. All right, guys, great open debate there. We're going to go ahead and go on to the closing. Jacob, you're back up. Time starts when you speak.
It's hard for me to care about a character when all she does is just have these expressions. Like, every time she's on screen with other people, I'm drawn to the other characters that are talking and showing emotion. I want to know what they're talking about. I want to know what they're feeling. I want to know, what's going on with them. Sally Hawkins, the only time that she can shine is when she's on screen by herself, with other characters that aren't talking, which is one, and that's the fish guy who can growl. I don't think she is the star of this movie. I will say that Octavia Spencer shines so much more. I think her performance in this movie is 10 times better, as this kind of sassy coworker of hers. Elizabeth Olsen displays such good emotion as an upstart FBI agent who wants to play by the rules, but also wants to deliver justice. And she plays so well off her co-stars. And it's one that made her a star, in my opinion. Like, just a bona fide star.
And time. All right, Will, you have the final minute this time around. It starts when you begin speaking.
Okay. So one point I definitely want to start by rebutting is that Elizabeth Olsen, by the time she got here, was definitely not new on the game. She had definitely been acting for quite some time before that. And I would even pointed out earlier a performance that was just as good as Wind River in her performance with Tom Hiddleston. I can't remember the name of the film. I'm sure Aaron will say it later. But Sally Hawkins, again, was asked to be in scenes with all these amazing people. She was asked to act in front of a giant fish monster played by Doug Jones. She was asked to fill up time with scenes by herself, whether she's going through her bathroom routine, whether she's eating alone. And it's electrifying to watch her go through all of these scenes without saying a single word. That's amazing.
And time. All right, gentlemen, a very, very good debate there. Go ahead, get your drink.
It's so hard to say her performance was bad.
That's why I refuse to say the Elizabeth. That's why I never go negative. I try and pump up and pump mine up more. That's always my strategy.
Well, guys, we're gonna see what pays off. I'll send you to the back and bring in our judges for the review with a couple of quick fact checks. So, as I said, and thankfully, good on the competitors for not letting the Oscars play into it. But for anyone who is curious, Sally Hawkins was nominated for Best Actress. She lost to Frances McDormand that year for 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Elizabeth Olsen was not nominated in either actress or supporting actress, since she kind of rides the line of co-star. They arguably could have kind of pushed her for either, but she was not nominated. Going on, the average weather in Wyoming in the winter is somewhere between 5 degrees and 18 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's fucking cold to just be wearing a jacket. Doug Jones portrays, as credited in the film, the Amphibian Man. That is the name of the character per the credits, although I don't know if the film itself ever actually says it. Sally Hawkins was, though a long-working actress, a pretty small-time actress in terms of her success in big projects. Prior to starring in The Shape of Water, though, in 2014, she had a pretty solid year playing Dr. Vivian Graham in Godzilla and the mother of the family, Mary Brown, in Paddington. She also went on to star in both of those film sequels before getting nominated for being in The Shape of Water. Arguably, Elizabeth Olsen is definitely the newer of the two actresses. Prior to her role in The Shape of Water, Sally Hawkins had been in the industry for about 20 years. Elizabeth Olsen, though if you look her up, it says she began acting in 1994. She had one credit as a child as a cameo in a television film. She did not actually begin acting regularly until 2011 with her film debut in Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. And the film that was being referenced by Will is I Saw the Light, the biopic about country singer Hank Williams, starring Tom Hiddleston and Elizabeth Olsen. With that said, Chris, I go to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
So different, tough one. I went with Jacob in the end. I just felt like he managed to hit Sally Hawkins more than Will managed to hit Elizabeth Olsen. That was kind of one in the end. Didn't hear a lot negative for Elizabeth Olsen from Will, and I thought Jacob that managed to hit the point. It might pay me. I fan of both of them.
All right, so the first vote goes to Jacob. Will, I go to you. Who gets your vote, and what sold you? Or JD?
It was tough. I wish I heard more counters from Will. However, he still ultimately got my point because I think he countered a lot of Jacob's points really well about how she's not emotionless and talking about the subtlety of her role, countering the emotionless, not showing emotion and being outshined. And
all right. And then Stacy, that means you get to go to the tiebreaker. Who gets your vote and what sold you?
Well, I agree with JD on this one for a lot of the reasons that he said. So my vote goes to Will. And like a lot, JD just pretty much said everything. The only other thing was that I felt like with Jacob, I got a lot of description of the character more than the performance, and Will really focused on the performance aspect of it.
All right. So with that said, round two will go to Will. Judges, thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back and bring back in our competitors as we'll go ahead and move on to question number 3, which
can I say something really quick?
Sure.
Jacob, that was an amazing round.
I don't. I would have voted for you too, but my reasons probably would have been a little bit different.
Still,
we can talk afterwards.
Yes, I just want to say that was awesome. And Aaron, back to you. Sorry.
All right. Well, moving on. Question number 3. We're going to move into the world of the MCU, which is an ever-expanding franchise. Obviously, it's grown into the point where it's doing television shows, which we don't even talk about. But we'll kind of go there just a little bit. Not really. The question could have allowed for it, but we didn't really. The question is, which supporting character from an MCU property should lead their own film? Obviously, with the expansion and the difference between the films and the television shows have kind of given a chance for those supporting players to break out and have their own lead in a show. But as we're going to see with Anthony Mackie's now Captain America, he's led a television show and will also lead a film. So that doesn't mean it couldn't happen for somebody else. So any character that is supporting was on the table for these gentlemen to pick. And as the person who can read the answers in front of me, I do say so myself. They picked some solid choices. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. Will, you are up first on this one once again. So it'll start when you begin speaking.
The MCU has so many films right now that picking one supporting character for this was very, very tough because you could have gone in multiple directions. Could have gone with ones from as early as the first Iron Man, all the way to any side character that was even in Endgame. So picking one was always going to be challenging, but I feel like I picked the one that was at least the strongest for me, and that is James Rhodes, aka War Machine. The reason why I picked him, just to kind of summarize, is I feel like we already know a bit about him, so transitioning him into his own movie would be extremely easy, and he's War Machine. War Machine is one of the coolest and just most underused characters in the MCU right now, and his movie would just be badass.
All right, that is time. Jacob, back up to you for the opening minute.
When I read the question, should lead their own film, not can lead their own film, because sure, War Machine probably can, but who should? And when I look at where the MCU is going currently, who's going to play a major role in where the MCU is going? That's Wong, the Sorcerer Supreme. You see him in Spider-Man: No Way Home. That's the only thing I'll say. No spoilers. You're welcome. You've seen it. You saw him at the end of Shang-Chi. He is playing a pivotal role in where the MCU is going, and I think he definitely is a character that we need to know more about. Where he's going, what he's doing, and not just he's popping up here and there, but what is the Sorcerer Supreme doing? Because he is a very important person when it comes to the MCU. And I will cut it off there.
Absolutely. It's a battle of the best friends with same superpowers. Rhodey versus Wong. Will, back to you for 2 minutes.
Didn't even think of that.
So Jacob touched upon something that I'm going to touch about now. We don't know anything about Wong. So he can, using, and sadly, Jacob's words against him right now, Wong can lead a movie by himself based on, him being the Sorcerer Supreme right now in the MCU. But I feel like more groundwork needs to be made on Wong so we can get to know him better, so that way he can lead his own movie confidently. I feel like Wong would be better suited right now for an MCU show, Disney Plus show right now first, before transitioning into his own show. Why should Rhodes, be in his own film? Because we've already seen what he can do. We've already seen him in the control room outside of the suit. We've seen what he can do with the suit. We have seen him be vulnerable. We have seen him in battle. We know the character of Rhodes. So it would not be any stretch at all to lead him into his own movie. And I will point one thing out, that both these characters bring the diversity that has been absolutely lacking in the MCU right now. But the reason why Rhodes, I think, would be a stronger choice for than Wong to lead his own movie again is because we have seen what he can do by himself. We know where he's been. We know where he's going. And that, I think, is going to be a much more interesting journey to watch rather than sitting through a near 3-hour movie with a bunch of questions in our head when really we already have enough questions with Doctor Strange movies.
All right, and that will be time. Quick editor's note here. God, Marvel, if you make these movies, please don't make them 3 fucking hours long. Stop that shit. Stop that shit. Not everything needs to be 3 hours long. Find somebody who can make a good movie in 2 hours. All right, that's just a personal rant. Jacob, you're back up. Time starts when you begin speaking.
Yeah, for the record, I never said the movie had to be 3 hours long. I don't know where that time frame came from. It doesn't need to be 3 hours. You could do an easy 2-hour movie because we do know a little bit about Wong. Some of the best movies in the MCU are those of origin, when you think about Iron Man, if you're just a fan of the MCU movies, you didn't know much about him. That movie succeeded perfectly. Captain America, Thor, it made you want to know more about these characters. Even the Incredible Hulk, you wanted to know more as the film went along. Origin stories are some of the best when it comes to comic book superhero movies. The fact that we know so much about Rhodes, I don't think it warrants him needing his own movie. It's just going to be another military, movie. Like what can we expand upon when it comes to Rhodes in the MCU? I mean, I feel like we've seen everything that he can do, and without Iron Man by his side, I mean, I don't know if a War Machine solo movie is that appealing. The Sorcerer Supreme is a character that we can definitely expand upon. You see him in all these movies, and he's opening portals, and he's going somewhere. And people are wondering, like, where is he going? What is he doing? Why is he not playing a bigger role in the MCU right now? He kind of comes and goes, and I think he definitely is at a place where we can get more from him. The character himself, he has good comedic timing. He showed in that fight scene in Shang-Chi that he can do fight scenes really well. Along with the comedy, he can use the portals to his advantage. There's just so much you can go with from here. You can bring other characters in, like Shang-Chi, like Abomination from Shang-Chi. You can bring Doctor Strange in, kind of like they did in Spider-Man, where he's not overpowering, but he is there as kind of a supporting character. There's just so many directions you can go with Wong, and I feel like with War Machine, there's only one way you can go, and that's already been done.
All right, we're going to go ahead and head into the 4-minute open discussion. The timer starts when the first person speaks.
So I will rebut right off the bat. There is multiple ways that you can take a War Machine movie, especially with the times that we're in right now, where there's a lot of international unrest right now, and the fact that Tony is gone. Like you can look at Far From Home, when you can feel Tony's absence from Spider-Man's life. That kind of interaction with Rhodes being his best friend, that is compelling cinema.
Yeah, but we're 5 years too late. We're 4 or 5 years too late for that. I mean, like that emotion's gone.
We're never too late for trauma, especially with his best friend. With me losing my best friend over 10 years ago, I still feel that. And it would be really compelling to watch him deal with that, to watch him maybe still have flashbacks of him almost dying in Civil War. There's so many things you can do with a War Machine movie, especially with someone who's been in the military as long as Rhodes, that it's not just going to be another rah-rah military film, like you said. Now, with Wong, yeah, he comes and goes. He has great comedy, but as you said, we can bring these other characters in. I mean, the other characters of the films he's already showing up in, like that doesn't sound as strong to me. I want to know.
It does, because you can lead a film. Doctor Strange is probably a more powerful character than Spider-Man. That doesn't mean that Spider-Man wasn't the lead in his film. He definitely wasn't. He was definitely the stronger character, and you left, caring about Spider-Man more than you did Doctor Strange. In a Wong movie, because they live together. I mean, Doctor Strange is obviously going to show up, and now you've got the 10 rings, and you've got all these other things, and it's where can we expand upon this and make it make sense in the MCU? Because this is where the MCU is going now. I don't see where Rhodes fits in now. Like, I think a Rhodes movie is like a Black Widow movie where it can be okay, but it feels unnecessary at this point.
And that I completely disagree with, because especially with Sam now taking up the reins of Captain America, I feel that there's a huge market in there. We have the mystical side of things already with Doctor Strange, and even to a now degree with the multiverse and everything like that with Spider-Man and everything like that. But there is that grounded side of the MCU that doesn't get a lot of time. Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
It's had its time. It's had its time, and
There's
now
no
the
there's no
MCU is
reason why
going in a different direction, and
it's
Wong
going
should
in
be at
multiple
the
directions.
forefront. And Wong should be at the forefront of that direction, just because of who he is. He is the Sorcerer Supreme, and I feel like as the Sorcerer Supreme, he should definitely have a bigger role than 2 minutes here, 2 minutes there, whatever. Rhodes has played a big role in the MCU already, and we've seen what he can do. We have not seen what Wong can do, and I think fans are clamoring for that. I think they want to see more of Wong, because not only is the character himself great, he's portrayed wonderfully by the actor whose name is escaping me because I'm
Benedict
sick.
Wong.
Dang it. Thank you. I hate being sick. It makes me forget things. Anyway,
The thing is that with Benedict Wong as Wong, you're right. He is absolutely the best person for that role. But I feel, this is where I feel like he would be stronger on a Disney Plus show, because he would have 6 hours to himself, whereas Rhodes, as you said, we've already seen him, so giving him his own show, which I know he's getting one, and I think it would be better suited for the movies for this reason, because we've already seen him, and he can carry that on from there on the grounded side and be awesome, while Wong has 6 hours all to himself on Disney Plus. That's perfect.
And time. All right, we are going to go into the closings. Will, you are back up first. Time starts when you begin speaking.
To say that we can't have both the grounded side and the mystical side, especially with the the way that the multiverse works, the way that the MCU has been working this entire time, I don't think that that's accurate. I think we can have the grounded side as well as the mystic side. Would Wong eventually make a good have a good presence in a movie? Yes, but we need to know more about him. We need to get audiences more emotionally involved with him before he can get there. Rhodes, we are already emotionally involved because we've already seen what he can do. We've already seen him as a person. We've already seen everything. We've already seen all the little inner workings with him. Give him his own movie. Give him his own 2.5 hour movie, or knowing the MCU, it'll probably wind up being 3 hours, like I was saying earlier. But either way, give him the time to be at the forefront in an intense movie and let him shine. Finally.
And time. All right, Jacob, back over to you for the final minute. Time starts when you begin speaking.
how do you get someone emotionally involved in a character? You give them their movie. You give them 2 hours to get to know this character. How did you get emotionally involved with Iron Man? You watched Iron Man, and you got emotionally involved with that character. How did you get emotionally involved with Captain America? You watched Captain America, the First Avenger, and you got emotionally involved in that movie. How did you get emotionally involved with Spider-Man? Even though he was introduced in Civil War, you watched Spider-Man Homecoming, and you got emotionally involved with him. Black Panther, same thing. Even though he was introduced in Black Panther, you got emotionally involved with him because of his own movie. Wong is somebody who, as a character, needs his own movie, because not only where the MCU is going, but because of who he is as a character. We don't know much about him, and we need to. And I think he has all the makings of a perfect origin story. We've seen the mystical side, and we know that it can succeed, but we don't know much about Wong. And I think in the right hands, Wong can deliver comedically, action-wise, just the sci-fi elements. I think he can deliver a very stellar MCU movie. Rhodes, we've seen it before.
And that will be time. Once again, guys, great fight. Gonna go ahead and put you both into the back and bring in our 3 judges. Not as much fact checking to go with this round. The only small thing is, yes, and I believe it was corrected in the match, but Benedict Wong is the actor who plays Wong. And for anyone who is confused, Don Cheadle plays Rhodes, not Terrence Howard. That was a long time ago. And yes, as was mentioned, he was accepted as an answer because we're not talking about Disney Plus shows, but Don Cheadle is the presumed lead of the upcoming Disney Plus series Armor Wars. For what it's worth, all they've said is that he'll be a major player in it, but not that he will be necessarily the definitive lead, although very little is known about the show at this point outside of rumors. It's heavily believed that Sam Rockwell as Justin Hammer will be involved because that character was heavily involved in the Armor Wars limited run in the comics. However, there's also confusion around that because Iron Man 2 kind of did take from Armor Wars already. So it's a whole thing. We don't really know what the fuck's going on with this thing, but we know we're going to get Rhodey again in it. But with all that said, let's go to the judges. JD, I go to you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main thing that sold you?
That Will had a really good pitch about where the character of Rhodey could potentially go, but that wasn't necessarily part of the question. I mean, it's a nice, buffer. But I did find myself swayed by Jacob's argument that we have Wong is an interesting character in the bits that we have seen of him, and it would be interesting to learn more about him. And maybe the best way to do that, maybe he deserves some movie to kind of show that. So that I went with Jacob.
All right. Stacy, I go down to you. Who gets your vote, and what sold you?
I also went with Jacob. I really liked, what he said and agreed with that about him playing a pivotal role, and we should be seeing more of him. He should be more important as the Sorcerer Supreme. It's where the MCU is going. And the comment about a Rhodey movie feeling like a Black Widow movie, and that's all had its time. I thought all of that was great.
All right. So with that, Jacob does get the second point, or his first point here, the third point of the game. Guys, I'm going to go ahead and send you to the back. Thank you once again as we bring in the competitors. And we will be moving on to question number 4. The game is not yet over, boys and girls. Question number 4. This week, I believe, if my math is correct, or if not, it's like sometime this month. I don't know at this point. Release dates are kind of a thing. But Roland Emmerich has a new film coming out. Yeah, Roland Emmerich, the guy behind such classics as 10,000 BC and Independence Day Resurgence. And my personal favorite, he made a small drama about, I unfortunately cannot remember the name of it, but it's a queer drama, which if what you thought you needed was a queer drama from the guy who brought you Godzilla in the 90s, yeah, it's kind of about what you'd expect. But he's a classic director, and as much as I'm going to make fun of him because he deserves it, he's made some shit films, including what looks to be one in Moonfall. He has made a couple of good films that people can enjoy and get into, and that's what we're going to focus on. What is the best film directed by Roland Emmerich is the question. And so we're going to go ahead and get into it. Jacob, you are back up on deck to start first, sir, so it will start ticking when you speak.
The best film directed by Roland Emmerich seemed like an easy choice for me. It is the 1996 classic starring Will Smith, Bill Pullman, Jeff Goldblum, and a whole host of other great character actors. It's Independence Day. This movie has everything you could want in a movie. It's got action. It's got romance between Jeff Goldblum and his, I can't remember the name because I'm very bad with names. Will Smith and Vivica A. Fox. Bill Pullman as the president and his wife. Like those are all great. It's got action. It's got sci-fi. It's got drama. The one-liners when they're fighting the aliens are great. Just everything about this movie is fantastic. It's great 90s sci-fi, and it is the quintessential alien invasion movie. When you think alien invasion, you think Independence Day. Wonderful film.
All right, and that will be time. Will, over to you. 1 minute on the clock.
So, as Aaron mentioned, Roland Emmerich has made some very abysmal films. But when you're not thinking about Independence Day, there's one film that you absolutely should be thinking about, and it's Independence Day's predecessor, Stargate. Stargate started it all. If you think that, Independence Day was good, I will detail this absolutely in my 2 minute. But all the great beats that you see in Independence Day, Stargate did it first. Stargate did the buddy stuff first. It did aliens first. it did Alien Invasion first. But Stargate is far more compelling than Independence Day. And Independence Day is very iconic. It's very good. Iconic does not necessarily mean the best. Stargate is the best Roland Emmerich film.
All right, Jacob, back over to you for 2 minutes.
I'm going to be honest with you. I tried watching Stargate for this. After an hour, I turned it off because the performances just weren't hitting for me. Nothing. The story wasn't compelling for me at all. You learn about Kurt Russell and his kid, tragically dies, but they don't even hit on that for a while. I don't know if they do for the rest of the film because, like I said, I turned it off. It just wasn't compelling to me. James Spader. You learn about his character. He's getting evicted from his home, but they're not hitting on that. Like, it just seems like they introduce things and then it's forgotten about. Independence Day from start to finish is engaging. They do such a good job of introducing all of these characters, from the president to Jeff Goldblum to Randy Quaid as he provides some good comedy, but he's also a pivotal role, one that you don't really see coming. Will Smith and Vivica A. Fox, as these kind of, they're kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't know the situation that's going on outside. There's a word for that, and it's not coming to my mind.
They're oblivious to it.
Oblivious. That's the word. Oblivious. They're oblivious to the whole situation. I love the fact that they got Will's cousin from Fresh Prince to play the kid, because as you saw in the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, they play really well off each other. They just got a good dynamic between them. All the moving parts of this movie just come together and make it one cohesive, sci-fi action movie at the end, when they all come together to fight the aliens and they all come together for a cause. And it shows that the world can come together when it's being threatened, and that there doesn't have to be this divide. And not to mention Bill Pullman's speech right before they go out. Like, that is such a great speech, so iconic. Just everything about this movie is wonderful. I want to harp on Stargate, but I can only harp on the half that I've seen because it just wasn't compelling to me. Kurt Russell is somebody who usually gives great performances, but in this movie, it just seemed like he was so out of it and didn't care.
And time. All right, we're going to go ahead and go back to Will. 2 minutes on the clock.
And if you would have watched the other half of the film, you would see one of the best performances from Kurt Russell in an action film ever. You would have seen a great performance from James Spader, who before this had really only done like a couple 80s comedies and some little dramas, especially in Sex, Lies, and Videotape. This was like really the first big action film. I think it's really one of the last action films he's really done, aside from voicing someone in Age of Ultron. This, you can't really say that that these characters are horrible. There's a lot of good story elements in Stargate. Knowing Kurt Russell's backstory really, really compels him as to why he even signed up for this mission, to go to this, this weird portal and find out what's going on at the end of it. James Spader's character is far more interesting than someone who's just being evicted from his house. He is a scientist who has had these crazy harebrained ideas about Egypt and Egyptology and everything like that, only to be proven right at the end of the day. There is a great moment towards the end of the film where James Spader gets to meet Ra, the actual embodiment of Ra. And their tete-a-tete is so intense, without any fist flying, without any grotesque puppetry that we see in Independence Day, that it's just so electrifying. And there's just moments like that. We don't get a lot of the human interactions in Independence Day that we get in Stargate. Independence Day, if you're only looking for action sequences, fine. It's if you're only looking for action sequences, yeah, it's going to trump this. But as a total package film, Stargate is vastly better as a total package film than Independence Day is, because of the great drama and the great action that you get.
All right, that is time. Apologies there. But no time has elapsed. So we do have 4 minutes on the clock. It will start when the first person speaks.
I mean, you definitely get human interaction in Independence Day. I mean, that's basically all the movie is human interaction. Then interaction with the aliens when they start fighting. To say that there's no human interaction, I don't know where you're coming from.
I said there's less human interaction in Independence
that's
Day.
Basically all the movie is human interaction, whether it's in person with the president and his team, or with Will Smith and the Army, or Air Force, or whatever branch he's in, or with Jeff Goldblum and his father. Like, there's way more human interaction in this movie. Even when they're flying and they're communicating via their radios, there's still that interaction. To say there's less, I will highly disagree. There is so much. Like, basically all this movie is about is the human interaction and trying to come up with a plan to defeat these aliens and save the planet.
And while and I feel that it's still interspersed with big action sequences and big moments where you're getting explosions or dragging aliens or talking about aliens,
because that's what you want in an alien invasion movie. It's a summer blockbuster for that reason.
And while you're absolutely correct on that, all the big beats that Independence Day had, Stargate did it first. Stargate
doesn't mean they did it better. Roland Emmerich saw what he was doing. He saw that.
You admit you only saw half the movie, so you don't know.
If it takes over an hour for something interesting to happen, you're not making a good movie. You're not making a compelling movie. I will give
There's
most
tons
movies
of interesting
a chance.
things going. There's tons of interesting things going on in Stargate. Just the whole reveal of the giant gate. That is electrifying. You want to know what's going on there, just like everyone, from the very get-go. You want to take the journey into the gate. You want to see how the gate even opens. You want to see what's on the other side. And once you're on the other side, the adventure still is going. Who are these people? Who are these aliens? You see all of this going on.
I didn't feel that way. With Independence Day, it starts off like immediately. There's no build. Like, it's like, this is what's happening. There's an alien invasion happening, but he still has a way of introducing these characters, and we want and we get to know them. Whereas with Stargate, it was, all right, we're going to introduce James Spader, we're going to introduce Kurt Russell, who, by the way, did not sign up. He was reactivated, so I feel like he didn't sign up. He was told, hey, this is what you're doing, go do it for your country. I feel like he didn't have a choice.
I will correct you. He actually did, and if you actually watch the rest of the movie, you will know that.
Oh, see, so I mean, you got to watch the rest of the movie to fix a plot hole. Okay.
There's not a plot hole if you didn't watch the movie.
I mean, yeah, because there was nothing interesting about it. Like, they had this whole language barrier thing going on that totally takes you out of the movie. If they were able to do that interestingly, I probably would have kept watching it. There was nothing there's nothing compelling to keep me going past the hour mark. I mean, once
I would say the action, you did bring it, you brought something up earlier. You're saying that the action starts right away in Independence Day, and it really doesn't.
I didn't say the action. I said the story. Like, it kicks off with the alien invasion right away. Like they're getting all these messages. They're getting Jeff Goldblum's getting the signal, and it's all starting right away. And it's a nearly 2.5 hour movie, but it does not feel like a 2.5 hour movie. Like, this movie flies by.
The story,
it makes you want to see more.
I feel like the story does not start off right off the bat. Both stories,
6 minutes in, he's getting a report about something in the sky.
And and 6 minutes into Stargate, you're finding the little seeds of everything going on. The gate is actually revealed very early on in the movie,
but you don't know what it is.
That's the point of the movie, is that we get to find out what it is, and then a half hour in, that's when we get to see what's on the other side of the gate, and that's where the action really takes off from there.
Independence Day hooks you in right away, and you want to go on this ride. glad I got that.
All right, we are going to go into our 1 minute closings to wrap this up. Jacob, back to you. Time starts when you begin speaking.
When I think of Roland Emmerich, I think Independence Day, because Independence Day is the quintessential alien invasion movie. You can say what you want about Stargate. Just because you did it first doesn't mean you did it the best. You did it better. Roland Emmerich, his 2.5 hour Independence Day movie is 100 times better than the hour that I saw of Stargate. Maybe I'm not giving it a fair chance, but there was just nothing compelling that wanted me to keep watching. Independence Day is a thrill ride from start to finish. You know, they intersperse the action and like the meetings and the talking perfectly. And once they defeat those aliens, like on Independence Day, on the 4th of July, like there's a sense of pride there. And, you know, you can really connect with these characters. Like, yeah, this is our planet. Please save it. And again, like it shows that the world can come together no matter what the difference is, no matter what there's a language barrier. Like, you know, yep, we're going to use Morse code to communicate. We're gonna do what we can. We're going to come together as a world to save our world.
And time. All right, Will, back to you for the final minute.
So I find it interesting that that Jacob says that no matter the language barrier, everyone's coming together. What film did that first? Stargate. I did say in my opening that Independence Day is the better action film, but Stargate is a total package movie. You have mystery, you have suspense, and you have action. In Independence Day, you have action. Yes, there's a lot of good moments. Yes, the Bill Pullman part is really good, but you know what's really good? Kurt Russell finally breaking the language barrier and being able to talk to the natives that he's talking to. Watching James Spader figure out the language and having interactions there. That's great too. Having this great villain hero tete-a-tete, which we don't get in Independence Day. That is the thing that Independence Day was absolutely sorely missing, was that kind of just absolute taut and drama. Independence Day may have done it bigger, but Stargate did it better.
And time. All right, guys. Good round. I'm going to go ahead and send you both to cool off in the back while I bring in our 3 judges. And while they're making their final decisions, we do have just a couple of fact checks. So the 3 women that are in Independence Day as kind of the love interest to the 3 guys, we have Mary McDonnell playing the First Lady to Bill Pullman. We have, obviously, as was said, Vivica A. Fox plays the girlfriend of Will Smith, and Margaret Collin is the actress who plays Goldblum's ex-wife. I don't know how I could forget Jeff Goldblum's name. Yes, as was said, for anyone who didn't know this, Ross Bagley, the actor who played the young cousin on The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, also played his son in the film. I went through as much of James Spader's filmography as I could to back up this point, but I would actually validate it as mostly correct. It seems as though he did not do an action film between Stargate and Avengers Age of Ultron. And funny enough, Avengers Age of Ultron is actually the last film that James Spader was in. He has not appeared in a film in just about 7 years. Independence Day is nearly 2.5 hours. For those who didn't know, it comes in at 2:25, so it's about 5 minutes under. And this one is more just self-validating. But the film I was referencing earlier is a movie called Stonewall. It comes in a whopping 9% like rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, seriously, you got to mess up to get it that low. And some of the critic descriptions of it include someone saying that the production design makes Christopher Street look like Sesame Street. It was accused of being less factually inaccurate than 10,000 BC, which was another film he made, and was criticized for lacking in people of color and drag queens, both of which were hugely involved in the actual Stonewall movement. I don't know how you can actually whitewash real colored queer history, but he found a way. With that said, we're going to go to our judges. Stacy, I go to you first. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
So Will got it in the very, very, very end when he talked about the villain. That's it. I mean, it was very close, and actually Jacob had it most of the time, but what he talked about the villain at the end, and that you don't get that with Independence Day. That kind of won me over.
All right, Chris, I go down to you. Who gets your vote, and what was the main point that sold you?
Yeah, it went back and forth, but in the end, Will got it for me. Into his closing statement, kind of beat Jacob in the last.
All right. Well, judges, that will be it. Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and send you guys to the back because your winner by a final score of 3-1, it is the Virtuoso Will Cohen coming in with a win on the debut, sir. And first off, congratulations getting the win there. It was a very close match. As we were talking kind of behind the scenes in the brief intermediary there, the judges were kind of able to confirm that even if they didn't speak, every round was a 2-1 vote. It was just kind of the order they rolled up on. So it can't get closer than that. But you did pull it out. How are you feeling?
Exhausted. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like Jacob, even in his state, like speed bagged my stomach. Like this was just hotly contentious. It was just, even when, I was going, I feel like almost every single time I was going up against an opinion I also agreed with. So trying to invalidate the other argument was going to be really hard for me. So I just had to really beef up my argument, and like I probably pulled this one out by the skin of my teeth, but I still, I'm elated, I am exhausted, and I'm glad to finally have my first official victory on record here.
Absolutely. And listen, you pulled out a great win. You did everything that you could. Now that you're 1-0, there's a couple of possibilities as to what could happen. Obviously, we have a few more of these rookie matchups happening, so there will be a few more 1-0 players. Maybe you play one of those. You're also not total rookie, as you do have 2 matches and technically 2 wins under your belt with that exhibition match. So maybe if we have like an experienced player a little lower, maybe you play up to them. What's your kind of feeling on that? What are you looking forward to doing?
I am very, very like wet behind the ears when it comes to this particular league here. So I don't know all of the players exactly. I've only been watching. I've only been watching for a little bit, so I can't really call anyone out that I necessarily want to play. I know there's some players that I've seen that I wouldn't mind playing. Like Sean, I've seen Sean Hunter a couple times. I think that could be. I think he and I could have some fun. I'd love to. JD was a judge here, but then he was also one of my first contenders that I played against in the exhibition match. I'd love to have another go around with him. But I'm up for any challenge. I feel like it's more overcoming the questions than overcoming a competitor at this point, and that's very, very exciting for me.
Absolutely, sir. Well, a hard-fought win. Thank you so much for being here. I am going to send you to the back, and we will see you next time as I bring in your opponent. And in the few times this has happened, I do always have to say I very much appreciate, because obviously you are just kind of getting over something, a bit of a sickness. Thankfully, not the plague, but you're getting over it. But you were still here. You showed up. You went to work, and you did the absolute best you could. How are you feeling after it? Sorry, it's part of the thing.
No, I understand this time. Where'd the Christmas exhibition winner part go, though? Anyway, no, I
can put
feel
it back.
good.
I got you.
I feel good. Like both of my losses have come. They were 3-1, but all the decisions were like 2-1. So I don't feel bad at all. There's like I feel like I put in a good performance. I feel like I could be the best and competitor in Movie Battleground if they all go 2-1. So no, and again, like even if I don't agree with some of the judges' decisions, like that's the thing. Like it's whoever's judging on a given match, like that sways it. Like they're gonna vote one way, whereas some other judges might have voted differently. So there's a lot of factors that can play into it. I don't feel bad about my performance. Like I said, off screen, I am getting over a sickness. I've misplaced my notes, so I don't blame that on the sickness, but that's just me as a person. I misplace things, so. Despite all that, I still feel like I put in my best effort, and we'll just put in a better effort.
Absolutely. Sir, I look forward to having you back on, but with that, that'll be it for tonight. We will see you next time. And guys, that will be it for another great match. Will comes out, he follows up on a very good performance in that 2021 match and is able to pull out the 1-0 record. Jacob, I would say an improved performance on his first match against Austin, but just, whatever it is, obviously, it's not, people will say it's not an excuse, but personal afflictions come into this, especially the fact that this is me making you talk for 2 hours and you've been sick. That definitely does put a lot on somebody, but I always respect somebody who's willing to show up and play, and Jacob definitely did give his effort. And I look forward to seeing some more rookies that kind of come out of this, because these are some of the guys that these guys may be looking at next. So it'll be interesting to see who ends up getting put into the matches. With that said, though, speaking of matches, we do have a couple more matches coming up this week. Be on the lookout because we have 2 big tournament matches. Tomorrow night, Thursday, we have Henry Sanchez, who was kind of the one of the second chance entrants into that 0-1 bracket, who lost in the 1-0 tournament, and because of the dropouts, we had to fill in some spots. Henry won that first round, and now he plays Kevin Moreno. The winner of that match plays me, so I have a real vested interest in seeing who wins that one. And then on Saturday night, we stick in the 0-1 bracket, going to our first semi-final match of the 4 that will be recorded, and that match will be between Matt Beer and the previously mentioned Sean Hunter, with the winner of that moving on to be one of the 2 finalists of the 0-1 bracket. So it's a big week, and it's a good match to get us started. I want to say thank you to all 3 of my judges, Stacy, Chris, JD. Thank you for being here for helping judge this match and get it done. I want to say thank you to Jacob for playing. Congratulations to Will for getting the win. Thank you to all of you for watching. Please be sure to rate the video, drop a comment, interact, subscribe to the channel, and stick around for more, because we have a lot of content coming at you every week with all your, I don't know, if you want to listen to people bitch on the internet for 2 hours, it's kind of what just this show is. But with that said, on behalf of myself and all my fellow producers, my name is Aaron Knoll, and we will see you next time on the Movie Battleground. Take care, everybody.